This is Matt Rosen, and this is the Grit Mindset with me, your host, Matt Rosen. The mission of the Grit Mindset is to inspire and empower our listeners by delving deep into the journeys of those who have faced significant challenges and emerged stronger. Through authentic conversations, we uncover the mindsets, strategies, and lessons that have propelled these individuals to overcome adversity and achieve success. My aim is to provide actionable insights and real-world advice to help our listeners cultivate their own grit and navigate their personal and professional lives with confidence and resilience. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Grit Mindset with Matt Rosen. That's me, your host. In this episode, I'd like to introduce my good buddy, Dave Casey. I've known Dave for 20 plus years now. He's been a great coach and mentor of mine, has gotten me involved in a number of different business networking groups throughout, the DFW community. And so excited to welcome him to the Grit Mindset. Welcome, Dave. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. We have known each other for a minute or two, it seems like. Well, cool. Well, I'm Dave Casey. I'm currently with Mastery Partners. So we are a consultant firm. We work with business owners that are contemplating an exit. So we're not business brokers or investment bankers. We actually work with those companies to help them prepare their business, and so they maximize the value they retain out of the business when they do a transition of whatever type. Could be selling to an outside party, passing it on to the children or key employees, anything above. Where we got to know each other was in the world of IT. So I was had an IT company for 25, 27 years and exited it about 12 years ago. And so I was did some IT consulting for a while before I got into the business side.
Yeah, I think when I met you, you guys were providing IP telephony systems.
Correct. IP telephony is a good way to put it, right? Yeah, it's the Rosen pronunciation. So yeah, that was a big part of our business back then, and we had morphed from. We started out selling modems, if you guys remember what modems were, and I started my career actually in mainframe computers way back when. So it's been a while.
Awesome. So from mainframe coder to running your own business to now helping others grow, scale, and exit their businesses.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, a lot to learn from you. So maybe to get us started, maybe just share a little bit about your early life and the experiences that shape where you are today.
Yeah. So I'm a Yankee, right? As
we'll
my
forgive
wife
you
says.
for that.
Yeah. So my wife says I was born in upstate New York and grew up there. Very small town, rural community. So it does shape you well, I think. I grew up working on a farm. We didn't own a farm, but all my friends had farms, and so started out very young, before child labor laws, I guess, working on a farm. So I learned about hard work. I know we're going to talk a little bit about grit, but that's part of it, is that upbringing. My father worked for General Electric, so he's a blue collar guy, and not an entrepreneur. Didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs. But it was, I had a great upbringing and very solid foundation.
Yeah, you mentioned the word grit. That's what we're here to talk about today, obviously. Yeah. So love to hear what it means to you both personally and professionally.
Yeah, I think I'll start with personally. I think it's resilience, perseverance, and the dedication to achieve a long-term goal. I mean, there's I think of things short-term and long-term. So there's always sprints. So you're in the application development business. You know what a sprint is in that world, where you just go, balls to the wall, for a bit till you get something done and hit that next milestone and go. I think grit is something that is a little bit deeper, and you're going after a long-term, very worthy goal. So and you've got the resilience to stick with that. Yeah. So it's and again, I think I got it working on the farm or working since I was 10 years old, really.
Any early defining moments that really tested your grit and determination?
Long
days on the farm?
Yeah, there's long days on the farm. I think one thing that shaped me, you'd say it would be a very negative thing, which it was. I lost my mom when I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And so I watched my dad, and so I have an older brother and sister, and I had a younger brother. So there's almost like two families. We were split apart a bit. My older brother is 13 years older than me. My younger brother was 7 years younger. And so I watched my dad, and he didn't, well, I wouldn't say he didn't miss a beat, but he was determined that, we were going to have a great home life, and he continued to provide for us, make sure everything, and I'm sure he was going through a lot of a loss and grief as we were, but that really showed me, how to be a parent and how to have determination and forge ahead.
Yeah, that's really tough. How would you say that's really influenced your current approach to challenges and setbacks, that early loss?
It's interesting. I think a lot of that is what's important. What's important at the moment, what's important long term, what really matters,
Yeah.
and what is a bump in the road. So you could even say I've lost my biggest customer, right? It's traumatic. That's a bump in the road, comparing it to a personal loss or a huge health issue or something like that. So it's all relative, I think, and just the way that people approach things. I watch people get wound around the axle for minor stuff. I call it majoring in the minors. They're just, that's not that important. Let's look at the big picture. Let's look at the long term, and let's look at where you're headed. So,
makes sense. Maybe share a story where you had to embrace grit as you were getting Westron off the ground.
Yeah, a lot of challenges there. So, like yourself, I started a company really from nothing. I did have a business partner. We pooled our huge interest of $10,000 a piece to start the company, get it off the ground, and we had very early on, we had some good success. We were at the time, we were selling data communications gear. So we signed agreements with 2 or 3 major manufacturers, one of which we thought was going to be a home run for us. We were one of the first companies in the United States to sign a deal with Ericsson. Ericsson's a big multinational communications company, and so we put a lot of effort into that, build up customer base, and Ericsson about 2 years in just pulled the plug. Said, we don't understand the U.S. market. We're pulling out. We're not going to do any of this. They kept in the central office gear for big telephone companies, but they didn't do any of the stuff that we were selling. So literally 50% of our revenue went away in like a week.
Wow.
So that's, you learn a little grit. So you learn one thing is there's a problem with customer concentration. There's also a problem with supplier concentration. So,
yeah, totally makes sense. You now are in the business of helping entrepreneurs, I would say maybe develop grit, but to talk a little bit, maybe share a story or two of what you're doing in the community today with and around business owners to really, inspire them.
Yeah, there's 2 things. So, as you know, I'm part of a nonprofit that you actually went through called Biz Owners Ed. Was there when that was founded, and the whole idea behind Biz Owners Ed was to encourage entrepreneurship and encourage people to take that leap. You may have somebody that's really strong. He's working for a big company or she's working for a big company, has a great idea. They may even approach the company with it. I've got this great idea. Yeah, that's not in our lane. We don't really want to do that. And they have to make a decision. Do I stay here? Do I look for another job? Or do I actually start? Do I believe enough in this to start my own company and build it? So we really want to be encouraging to people. And it takes a certain mindset to be an entrepreneur, as you know. I mean, there's people that can be the smartest guys around or the hardest workers, but if they're not cut out to be an entrepreneur and embrace risk, and kind of run toward risk, they're probably not going to succeed. And so Biz Owners Ed was really put together to encourage that. I think there were some things happening in the late early 2000s, in 2008 to 2010, a lot of regulation coming on about small businesses, a lot of things that would dissuade people from actually starting a business and growing a business. And we wanted to overcome that. We wanted to encourage entrepreneurs to take that leap. If they already have taken the leap, to continue their success. Most folks get started, build a company, and it's fast moving for a couple of years maybe, then they'll plateau. A lot of times that plateau is the entrepreneur themselves. They're excellent at sales, they're excellent at client services, or they're excellent at finance, but they're not good at all 3.
Yeah.
And so we help them pass that plateau.
No, it's a great program for the listeners. Biz Owner Ed's the name. We'll tag it on the post. And I went through it in 2019. It was a great experience. Dave put me up for it. I went through the class over 10 weeks and learned a great deal, made a lot of good friends. Awesome experience.
Yeah,
so
appreciate that. Yeah, it was good to have you. I think you were our valedictorian.
Appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit about Mastery and what you're doing to serve, business owners and entrepreneurs there.
Yeah. So a little bit the same thing with it's not a nonprofit. In fact, we're intentionally a profitable company. So entrepreneurs, or I'll just say business owners, if you're a business owner and you've had your business for a period of time, at some point in your career, you kind of figure out, I'm not going to do this forever. I think the more astute business owners that maybe have a little more grit realize there's a time in life for a business. It happens. So you either outgrow the business, or it outgrows you. Something happens that you're going to exit the business, and there'll be a transition eventually. You may sell to a private equity group. You may sell to your employees. You may pass it down within your family. It depends on the business. We've got a couple businesses we worked with that are fourth generation businesses. But there's a transition coming. And what we do is we help the business owner maximize the value of that transaction or transition when it happens. So a lot of that is helping them decide what they want to do, then pull the levers and do the things that are going to really make that business more valuable in the ultimate analysis.
What inspires you about working with other business owners? What's kind of led you down this path?
Yeah, it's interesting. I really like, I like the mindset of entrepreneurship, and I think the idea of it's almost every business owner that we work with has what I call an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. They're thinking there's always something great coming down the road. How do I take advantage of that? Met with a guy this morning who's worked for other folks, just is working now in a company that was acquired by private equity. The company is accelerated under private equity. He's kind of seen what that looks like, and he's interested in actually acquiring or starting his own company. So he really just wanted to bounce ideas off of me and say, what do you think? I love that. I mean, that's the kind of person I like to be around, that has that drive, that determination, and that vision, really focus, to do those things.
Yeah. Well, let's move to kind of some personal things about your journey. Maybe share with us, kind of a really challenging obstacle you had to overcome, and that really took a lot of grit to get through. Maybe
you can probably share. The biggest one, and I feel like I'm the downer here guy, but when I started my company, there were two of us. We had worked for another company together, became great friends. We were totally 100% opposite personality-wise. We didn't socialize with each other, but we respected each other's business acumen. So the opportunity came up for us to start a business together, and that's how I got Wet Westron started. And 20 years in, my business partner Jack had a heart issue and suddenly passed away. So we went from 50-50 partners, and we had we didn't even live in the same city. He lived in Florida, I lived here, but we had our lanes all marked out. I did sales, I did kind of vision casting, where we're going to go in terms of technology, and I did oversaw the technical side of the business. He oversaw all the financial side of the business, vendor relationships, banking, all that, operations, all that back end of the business, and did a fantastic job. So when he suddenly passed away, I had the whole business to deal with. And I had a great team. I had 20 some odd people that we were, everybody's in shock. Everybody's, what's going to happen? And unfortunately, it was not an easy transition. His sister, who he hadn't talked to in 15 years, became my new business partner.
Oh, wow.
So there we thought a very well-defined setup with buy-sell agreement funded by insurance and the whole thing. But she went to court to challenge all that. So we had an 18-month period of uncertainty there, which things could have gone wildly wrong. Things went wildly well, actually. My team just buttoned down and said, we'll work as hard as we can. We want to get through this. Everybody outperformed on the team. Meanwhile, in the background, I'm dealing with lawyers and all stuff that I don't like to do, but ultimately, we kind of carried the day, and it came to a great resolution financially and I guess psychologically. Still miss Jack. I miss his counsel pretty much every day. I mean, he was a sharp guy and a good friend. But we made it through it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when you were going through that, and yeah, I know that took a lot.
Yeah.
Getting through it. So how were you able to foster that grit and resilience within your team?
You know, part of that is having the right team and recruiting the right way.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of mentioned growing up in a small town. So we had, you know, our focus was, I guess, family, faith, work, and sports, right? And I have found invariably when we're recruiting folks, I'm trying to ask about their background, where they grew up, how they grew up. Did they play any kind of sports, or are they sports oriented? Not just for fitness, but actually for the concept of being on a team, right? And you know, I think the best hires I've ever made have been relatively blue collar folks that were sports oriented, and they don't necessarily have to be like I was the captain of the team or the best or whatever, but having been on that team and understanding how teams work, and it's not a democracy, but your voice is important.
Yeah.
I mean, your voice is heard. And just resilience and hard work. I mean, so if you've got that, you know, that as a general, you know, my friend Tom Neeson says he teaches sales training. He goes, you know, this is a great place to work, hard. So, I mean, well, I want people that will work hard. And they don't necessarily have to have the same vision that I do and the same, even the same goals and, you know, desires. But I think if they're looking to be rewarded for hard work, we were always a great place to go to work.
Yeah, no, you had a great team. I knew quite a few of them. It was a good group of people that you'd built.
Yeah.
Any, significant influences or role models that you had in your life?
Oh, a ton of them.
Yeah.
Definitely my father. My father was a very quiet guy. He was very reserved. And as I got older and kind of learned our family history, I kind of realized why. So he was born in 1915. He lost his mom when he was 2 years old, in 1917. I think she was one of the first ones to get the Spanish flu back in the day. He lost his dad when he was 9 years old. His dad was killed in an industrial accident. So he's an orphan at 9 years old, a single, you know, he's the only child, raised by his aunt and uncle, who did a fantastic job. But he was kind of a loner, and he you know, never went to college. He was one of the brightest men I've ever met. Never went to college, never had the opportunity. Graduated high school in 1933, which was right in the middle of the Depression.
Yeah.
You know, so he went to work on a road crew and worked in a CCC camp, and so. But he instilled in us family values and obviously work values, and in how to treat people correctly and how to deal with people. My older brother, same way. My older brother was the first in our entire family tree ever to go to college. He became an English teacher, and then within a couple of years moved into business. And so he taught me the business world and what was important, what wasn't, and how to deal with things. I remember his File 13 thing was awesome. He said, back when we used paper, he said, if you touch a piece of paper 3 times, you haven't done anything, put it right in a can. You'll never
like
need
that.
it. You'll never need it. And I try to do that with emails now.
Yeah.
You know, if I've looked at it 3 times, I haven't done anything, so I'm just deleting it, you know. So,
Yeah.
so, but then there's others. I mean, there's obviously authors. I'm a big proponent of Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. So the Who Not How and 10X is great, easier than 2X, and
Yeah.
you know, those types of books. Dale Carnegie. So there's a couple Dale Carnegie books I read every single year. Napoleon Hill. There's a whole bunch of old-time authors, and you know, Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
James Clear.
I think Real Rich is one of my favorites. It inspired me to start my own.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, and it's timeless. It's stuff
Yeah.
that's, I mean, look how long ago it was written. And
Yeah, well, that's great. Sounds like you had some great role models between your dad and
Yeah.
your brother. Can you share with us, an inspiring story that's affected your perspective on grit and determination?
if something happened to me or something that I've
Either one.
observed. Yeah.
Be either.
You know, I've we've got, there's a fellow that actually I think Mitch Felderhoff.
Oh yeah, I know Mitch.
So Mitch is,
I need to get him on the show.
you need him on the show. He's awesome. So he's the guy that was in a fourth generation company.
Dog food, right?
Started out as a grist mill and then a feed mill, and then moved into pet food and that type of thing. And he and his brother ended up buying the company from their parents. And their parents were either going to sell to them or they were going to sell to private equity, or they were just going to sell the company. And they ended up buying it. They had to scrape together some money to do that. And then just a few years later, they sold it for basically 10 times, the money, which caused some friction in their family. They sold a fourth generation deal, but his determination, his outlook on life, and if you think about the things, what grit means, he and Chad, his brother, really show that, and they're inspirational. It's funny. He considers me a mentor. I consider him a mentor. So maybe that's a good way to have a good relationship. But.
Yeah, no, it seems like you've built a great relationship with a lot of the business owners you've helped. How do you think about your network and how your network can help foster grit and help you personally and professionally?
There's a couple things there. As you're a pretty intentional networker as well. I think there's small groups, and we're in a small group together. I'm in 2 or 3 small groups where I've got 6 to 10 people that are very important to me and are pretty invested in my success, and are concerned about me, and me for them as well. Then I'm in some bigger groups like Business Navigators. I just stepped on as a president of that group. That is a servant leadership business group. Most of the folks in there work for larger corporations, and they're centered around servant leadership. So they're not in it for themselves, but they're great networkers. They're great at connecting people together. We actually track as a KPI. We have our level 10 meeting. We use EOS internally in our company. We track each week. We track business owners impacted. We track referrals received, referrals given, and then obviously new opportunities and things like that. But that referrals given is very important for us. I think that's a key metric that if we see those referrals given going up, we know our business is going up in the future.
Yeah, well, that's great that you've invested in all those places, and I know it's paid a great deal of dividends to you, as I have as well. I think 3 of the first guests have been members of the DFW IT round table.
It's been around a long time. I mean, that's hard to, any kind of group like that. I mean, we're over 20 years old.
Yeah, 21 years this month.
People are astounded when they hear that. I mean, we've met essentially every twice a month for 21 years, and you figure out the amount of meetings we've had. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, as amount of business and encouragement we pass one another. So you talked about external. What are some of the practices you follow personally to maintain a strong and positive mindset that you can display grit for whatever comes your way?
Yeah, it starts early. So I think meditation is one, and meditation means different things to different people. The Eastern concept of meditation is to totally empty your mind of everything. I think I'm more of a Christian meditation where you're really focused on God and your relationship with God. So you've got to focus, and so you're not trying to empty your mind. You're trying to fill your mind, really. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of it. I think there's having a discipline within your life, and whether it's discipline to get up, to exercise, to meditate, to the way you handle your day to day, and then that KPIs are kind of important. So I think it's important to have personal KPIs as well as business KPIs. So you've got these key performance indicators. Am I better than I was? Am I a better version of myself this year than last year?
Yeah, what gets measured gets managed. So what are some of the KPIs, if you don't mind sharing with us, that you like to track?
Well, in mine are really not financial so much anymore. They're more about people that I've helped, opportunities that I've taken. How have I served my family? How have I've got two, as you know, I've got a wonderful wife. We've been married for now 37 years. We got 2 great sons that are very successful, and I've tried to pour into them, and they've they've done very well. I can't attribute it all to me. It's their mother's 99% of it, but
She'll appreciate that.
yeah. But it's a so I think that those are KPIs I look at, and then just interaction with people. And that's the funny thing. You kind of ask, well, people ask when you're going to retire. Well, retiring to me is not like playing golf. I'm horrible at golf. My fun thing in that was to really help business owners. I mean, it's some of the times for profit, but often just to help them, move them forward.
I'd be curious, as you look across the business owners, the ones that are the grittiest, what are the things you see them exhibit? What are maybe some lessons learned from them, given that you get to interact with tons of entrepreneurs and business owners every day in what you do?
I think part of it is, how do you handle failure? And it's interesting, even when we talk about, we're looking for, clients that we can take on board, we can help them build their business, maximize the value of their business with an eye to an exit. One of the top criteria might be they've tried to exit and failed at it. Okay, and how did they react to that? Did they just throw up their hands and say, well, we're just going to shut the doors, we'll just liquidate? A lot of times they say, okay, well, that didn't work. What did we do wrong? How do we do that? So I think failing and trying, I think failure to act is a much worse sin than failing and trying and failing. There's so many people that get caught in a process loop that they can't make any decisions.
Yeah.
I love people that take decisive action, and yes, there's going to be some fallout. Yes, it might not be the right thing. Maybe we hit it 80%, or maybe we missed it by 80%. Either way, we took action. We'll go back and fix what we broke. I know you kind of careen through life that way. So that's
there's been lots of failures and learnings, but you get back up and live another day. As we're wrapping up here, any failures you've had and what you've learned from it?
Gosh, I think I haven't had any tremendous failures. I've had lost customers that I shouldn't have lost, for sure. I've had, when I sold my company, it was a great sale. Everything went through well, and everything rocked along for about 4 years. And I think most people that are entrepreneurs that have sold their company were astounded. They're going, that never happens, because entrepreneurs are just cut differently. But literally, the company I sold to was really good guys. Their culture was very similar to ours. Their values, the way they treated people was great. But they were in turn owned by an oil and gas company, and that's a very cyclical business. And actually, one of the reasons I sold to them, it was an oil and gas company, because they had real money. I mean, we talked to other technology companies; they want to exchange stock. And, we'll do a joint venture or whatever. And I said, this was real money. So when times got tough in the oil patch, they just started sucking money out of the technology company. I said, it's a good time for me to leave. We couldn't get requisitions filled. Customers were complaining. Lots of problems were happening. And I almost say that was a failure. It really wasn't my failure, but I felt a failure type thing, that I left behind a very good team. And most of them, a lot of them are still there. So it's one of those things that, I kind of look back and say, man, could I have gone and done something different, brought that team with me, and continued to pour into them.
Yeah, it's tough. That's your family. They stuck with you through tough times, so I can understand that.
Yeah.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, any final messages you'd like to share with the audience as it relates to grit?
I think and you've had other folks on, I think, that certainly have exhibited grit. The idea is that I think grit is a learned characteristic. I think you have to be born with certain characteristics, but grit, you can learn by example. You can make those determinations, and it's a series of turns in the road, really. Each time you come to a challenge, you can say, is this a short-term challenge? Is this a long-term challenge? What am I going to do? And I look at people whose life have been disrupted. They were rocking along, everything was fine, and then, a huge medical problem occurs or something economic occurs to them. And the ones that just seem to, they won't say they sail through, but they make it through really well. They've got true, I mean, they really have that grit, they have that determination, that resilience. I try to tell people you can do that. I mean, I try to encourage people.
Yeah.
One of the groups I meet with, the thing is that kind of our last question to each other every time we meet is, what are you going to do this week? And I say, I'm looking for opportunities to help people because people need that. So,
yeah. Well, this has been awesome, Dave. I think we're about out of time, but thank you for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your stories and the stories of entrepreneurs you've helped. Thanks for being a friend and a coach to me over the years.
Appreciate it.
Hopefully for the audience listening in, Dave's got a wealth of experience. So hopefully you took something away from this and have some ideas how to cultivate your grit. As I agree with Dave, grit is something that you're born with, but it's something that can be cultivated infinitely through books or listening to podcasts like this. So to our audience, stay gritty. Signing off for Grit Mindset with Matt Rosen. We'll see you next time.